What's up, Chad? How everyone is going today? How was your week? Mine, it was fantastic. I can tell you that, I started to Twitch to stream, to Twitch and, to YouTube, and have been a lot of fun just being here with you all. And literally, just having fun, mainly having fun, because typically, sometimes when you create content online, not all of it is fun. And being here on Twitch and YouTube, it does look like fun to me. So yeah, welcome all to the stream. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Nuno. I'm a PHP developer working with Laravel, and I started this Twitch YouTube scene basically early this week. And this is like my 7th stream, I think, already. So hopefully after today, I will be a Twitch affiliate, which give me access to a bunch of things that I want to include on my Twitch channel. So just excited about that. Today's stream will be awesome, by the way, okay? Today's stream, we are going to do amazing stuff. We are going to literally build an app from scratch in and kind of the goal is showing you how actually I build apps, okay? I've been noticing that some of you are actually curious how I do organize my apps and how do I like to, to set up my apps. So I'm gonna build something literally from scratch. From Laravel new to something, So the only thing I have done so far on this project you are seeing right here on screen is literally Laravel new. So as you can see, everything you are seeing is literally just a fresh Laravel new. There is no breeze, there is no Jetstream, anything is a fresh Laravel new with nothing inside. So what I will do is just start building on this and just discuss it with you all. So let me just leave something clear before reading the chat, and I know you guys are being already so active there, which is pretty cool. This is not a lesson, okay? It's not a lesson, it's not a class, it's not a course. It's literally me live streaming and just having a discussion with you all, okay? So first of all, thank you so much for coming. We have already 30 people in, which is pretty cool, and we have quite of a chat already. So thank you all for those messages. What do we have here? Oh, we have someone coming from Macedon. I thought seriously that posting on Macedon was a waste of time. So welcome to the stream and thank you for coming. Ian is saying if we are going to use PHP 8.4. Actually, we are not going to use PHP 8.4. Or we are. Let me check. I don't even know. Maybe we are. Oh yeah, let's go. We are using PHP 8.4. Why not? All right, this project will be in PHP 8.4. So hopefully we'll find the chance of using the new features. Maybe today. I don't know. What do we have here? Nuremberg. Thanks and welcome to the stream, and thank you all for following me on Twitch. Following me on Twitch is very important, dudes, because basically following me on Twitch will allow me to unlock some of the features I want to use for these streams. So if you are following me on Twitch, or if you are watching me on Twitch, click on the follow button, because that will be pretty cool for me. Ducatan is asking, quick suggestion, can we enable VODs? Because sometimes I can watch it live. So that's the thing, dude. I kind of want to not leave the the entire live streams on my channel after, because I want to create some highlights of this content so people can, just watch the cool stuff. They don't have to see me, just having a chat with you all. Maybe in the future I will enable those. Now at the moment I don't want to. Transcode is saying, hi Nuno, how are you there? Well, I'm simply here. I don't know what to say. Jaron is saying, how are you guys? I'm doing fantastic, man. I had an amazing week. Things are going great, everything wise, Laravel Cloud. We are moving forward, making good progress. It was a little bit quiet by the end of the week because of Thanksgiving, So people do have to celebrate. And yeah, it was a fantastic week. Good Britain saying hi from London. Welcome to the stream, man. I love London. People from Italy, Toronto, which is pretty cool. Welcome everyone to the stream. And I'm going to start by the last question. Marcos Ferreira is asking me if I'm going to use Laravel Sail. I won't. Apologize, man. I use literally Valet, which is like the thing I'm using for the last 10 years. You know, I know Herd from Marcel Posiot is pretty cool. You know, everyone says it's like the best thing ever. The thing is, I have this setup for so many years that I'm just afraid of touching it. You know, it just works. So I do know that once I'll buy a new laptop, I'm going to basically migrate to Herd, or start with Herd to begin with, because everyone is saying amazing things about it. Okay. All right, dudes. Again, this is not a lesson, a course, or anything. This is literally me live streaming how do I create apps. And today we are going to literally create an app. The goal is kind of do a to-do app or something like that. And, you know, organize the code, set up the tooling and everything. And my end goal to the stream is literally have a test that allows me to create a new to-do. Okay, so something very simple. And we are going to hopefully have a special guest on this live today if I move forward and I actually create the application. Otherwise, the guest will show up and I have nothing to show him. So let's move forward, okay? So the first thing I do when I'm creating a new app, so first of all, you guys can see that I'm using PHP Storm, which is at the moment my go-to as an editor. I just love PHP Storm. And the only thing I have done so far is literally typing Laravel new. Okay, it's the only thing I have typed on my laptop. Laravel new. So this is a fresh Laravel application with literally nothing inside, as you can see. So just the typical stuff that comes with Laravel by default. And also the test suite is past PHP. So while typing Laravel new, I have chosen past PHP. Okay, that's something that, you know, you might use PHP unit or past PHP. Both are great. But today we are using past, and hopefully, you know, a fresh Laravel app. I expect nothing else than a passing test suite. However, past PHP is not the only tooling I use. I use a lot of other toolings, and I want to start by that. So let's start by setting up Pint. I know Pint should just work by default. However, I kind of want to put some extra rules. So I'm going to copy this little file I have on my project, call it pyre.link. And it's literally my pint.json configuration that I just copy paste to every single project. So there's a couple of stuff that I like to do. To begin with, it uses a preset Laravel, but then it's just, you know, finalizes classes, you know, what else? Imports some functions when I'm using global functions, like very little things, just to ensure consistency across my project. So hopefully, if I run Pint again, he will apply this stuff to my project. And if I go to something like, you know, let's say app service provider, yeah, I do see some of the stuff I like to see, like, you know, declare strict types on top. I do think this even add some types sometimes. So if I go to this controller, I see declare strict types. This also does cool stuff like, you know, if you have, for example, a public function, let's call it foo. And then you have, for example, let's say a private. I do think this reorder basically the methods, which is pretty cool. Let's just double check. So if I do this and I run Pint, there we go. It basically kind of swaps, swaps the private to below and puts the public on top, which is pretty cool. And I just noticed that we have this abstract controller and we are going to remove it. I never use abstract controllers basically, so I'm going to remove this class right now. So once I add my Pint configuration, the first thing I'm going to do is actually commit this stuff. So this basically contains, all the formatting Pint have done. So let's basically call this a shore and reformats with, actually I'm going to just call it shore style because it's basically what we're doing, just, adjusting the style of our project. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just remove this abstract controller. I never use an abstract controller. Do you guys use this? I personally never use the abstract controller. What questions do we have so far? Nuremberg is saying, first step, install Volt or Livewire. So today we are not going to do any front end at all. So we'll be basically, you know, just a regular controller will answer to a test or to, you know, to a request. But hopefully we don't have to deal with front end at all. Boji Maliev is saying, why does street types? It's not the default. Well, you know, sometimes I personally don't care too much if I have them or not, but I like to ensure consistency across all my files. So I don't know. I just like to see them. Also, I like a little bit of the insurance it gives when I'm providing values through methods, because I know that, you know, when you use declare street types, you don't face type jungling, and basically, you know, if you are sending a string, will never be, for example, transformed automatically to an integer. So things like that. Nuremberg is asking, I never used the abstract controller in the last 4 years. Yeah, me neither. So I'm gonna just do that. I'm gonna remove this abstract controller, and I'm gonna create this git keep for now, because I kind of want to keep this controllers folder. So let's just commit this. Sure. I'm going to call this refacto and remove abstract controller. Okay. And push this. I mean, our test suite, we have nothing still. We have the default test suite that comes with Laravel. So hopefully everything is just passing. Yeah, so Michael Doka is asking, how do I handle, you know, communication between controllers, services, sharing data? Today, hopefully, we are going to see all of that, you know. I'm thinking, you know, just showing you how do I structure my apps, you know, actions, form requests, you know, value objects, all this stuff. So hopefully, we're going to see all of that. So we have the git keep. Let's go file by file, okay? Actually, before that, I want to keep set up the tooling, because so far we have pint.json, which allows you, you know, to kind of style the project in the way that I want to, but I also want PHP stan. So let's actually require PHP stan. So composer require larastan dash dev. So larastan, if you don't know, it's pretty much this project that checks type safety in your project. So if you are into that, you know, use larastan and PHP stan. They are pretty cool. And when I do this, I want to create my php stan.neon, which is pretty much the file that PHP stan uses to understand the level of safety you want in your project. So for me, I'm going to actually use my PHP stan from my pyre.link, which is this one, and what it does is uses the rules from larastan. This is pretty cool because, you know, larastan gives you a lot of stuff, but out of the box, basically makes PHP stan compatible with Laravel. And I also want to use the bleeding edge features that PHP stan provides me, which they are pretty cool. I'm going to use a level max. I feel I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to use level max. And also, I want, you know, PHP stan to pretty much check all of this stuff. Let's see how it goes, because I have literally no idea the last time I have run PHP stan on the fresh Laravel project. So, first of all, it's already complaining, which I don't know why. Did I copy paste it right? I think I did, right? Huh, interesting. Let me check something real quick. Which version of PHP stan am I using? Interesting. I'm gonna, I actually want to use larastan 2.0 because I don't have tested yet larastan, the latest version. So I'm gonna go to larastan 2.0, which, you know, uses kind of the larastan 1, which is what I'm using at the moment. I have literally no idea how larastan 3 behaves with Laravel. Let's go now. And yeah, it's working as expected. It's running, inspecting my project. And yeah, something we never figured it out yet on PHP Stan is literally this undefined variable this when you're working with closures like this one. So to fix this for now, what I think I'm going to do is literally clean this console.php because it's literally doing nothing. So we can literally just ignore it for now. Let's go file by file now. All right, config session is using this string slug, which expects a string, but a boolean or a string is given. So let's go there to the line 134. And I guess we can literally just cast this to a string. Welcome everyone to the stream. I know all of you, some of you just arrived. So if you don't know me, my name is Nuno, PHP developer, and today we are literally creating a PHP application with Laravel. Laravel is an amazing web framework, and I'm pretty sure you are going to love it. All right, line 51. What do we have here? Another cast. So now I'm basically adding PHP Stan to the level max into all my project, you know, because it's something I always like to do and takes no time to basically fix these problems. Yeah, I do work for Laravel, an amazing company, amazing people behind it, and I'm the happiest developer in the world. You know, just working with Laravel, for Laravel, with so talented people at the Laravel team that, you know, I'm happy every single day, man. Feeling super blessed. Yeah, so what I'm doing at the moment is pretty much having PHP Stan passing on my project, you know, and it's basically complaining about useless stuff at the moment. Just basically, you know, saying that sometimes you are fetching stuff from the environment variables, but they may not actually be there. I'm gonna just, you know, casting that so I can just ignore the problem at the moment. How the music is for you all? You guys enjoying the stream so far? I'm having fun, you know, already, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I see we have someone from Portugal. Welcome, man. Nice to see you here. What is complaining right now? I see that we have apologize. The type integer key string as a value of the property fillable is not covariant with the PHP doc type list string. What is complaining about? Is this? Maybe it is. I don't know. Let's see. Nope. Should I just use list and this will work? Let's see. There we go. Oh. Dun, 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 dun. All right, we have PHP Stan passing. And something I always like to do is, you know, because you don't really know like who is joining your project and when. So something I like to do is keep my composer scripts with all my test suite, you know. So what I will do here is pretty much have a single composer command to run my entire test suite, okay? So my test suite is not only like test files, you know, it's not only past. At the moment, my test suite is already a lot of things. So we have past, we have PHP Stan already, you know, we have Laravel Pint. So we have a lot of, you know, a lot of things already that can test our application. So we want to make sure that I have a single command like composer test that will basically run everything I have. So what I'm gonna do here is copy these little scripts I have from my pyr.link, and I'm gonna just copy here. And so far we have what? We have lint through Pint. We have test lint as well. So linting is a little bit different from testing the lint. Because something you want to do on the CI is run Pint on test mode. You don't want to run Pint like just fix the styling on the CI, you know. You want to kind of ensuring that the styling is okay on the CI, and that's it. So the -- test does exactly that. Okay. So I'm going to use PHP stand for testing the types, type coverage. We don't have type coverage yet, but I'm going to leave it because we are going to have it pretty soon. So test unit in parallel with --CI, with --cover 100%. Oh boy, we have some job here. So refactor not ready yet, and should be it. So now, if I run composer test, do we have this working? Probably not yet. So we have Pint running, we have PHP stand running, we don't have type coverage. So let's add type coverage into this. I'm gonna type composer require past PHP, past plugin type coverage. So are you guys familiar with type coverage? Is one of my favorite things I have on past PHP. It's basically the possibility of having a tool that checks if you are using types all over the place, okay? So I'm gonna use this plugin type coverage with the flag --dev and install this in my project. And it's done, and hopefully if I run --type coverage with --minimum 10, 100%, we do have, you know, at the moment, 100% types. If I were to, for example, let's go here to my provider, app service provider, remove this void, for example. Now what will happen is that it will tell me that the type coverage is below 100%, so I can just add the type back, run type coverage again, and now it's passing as expected. So it's pretty cool stuff, I feel like. What do you guys think? So now we have type coverage added. Do we have already, let me check. Do we have already 100% test coverage? Let's see. So I'm gonna type --coverage 100% and see how much we have. No coverage available. Oh, because I'm using PHP 8.4. All right, sorry dudes, I'm gonna switch back to PHP 8.3. Apologize about that. Running composer update. Nuremberg is saying, I love type coverage. Me too. Big fan. It was one of the biggest additions I have done to PAST, and I love it. Absolutely love it. Bazir is saying, you are doing exactly the same. I was doing exactly the same today when I start a new project, install it PHP stand with level max. Yeah, that's typically the stuff I do when I start a new level project, is kind of set up the tooling, you know, because I will need it anyway, so I better just do it, you know, on the very early stage. All right, so normally I can already, you know, enable Xdebug and I should have coverage. So it's saying that I have a coverage to 33%, okay, because my model is not even being tested. So I'm gonna add a test to my model to address this issue. Typically what I do is, just to clear it out, I'm gonna show you a little bit later on, but typically what I do is that when I'm working with testing, the feature folder will have basically two folders. We'll have three actually, sorry. We'll have HTTP, which is basically only controller tests, console, which is only commands tests, and jobs just for, you know, regular queuing jobs. That's it. Everything else goes to the unit test. So what I'm gonna do here is pretty much create a folder with the name models, and I'm gonna create my first test for my user model and call it user test, okay? Something that I like to do to all my models is test the two array keys. And so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna just type test to array. And then I'm gonna create a user, which is coming from, you know, the user factory, of course. And I'm gonna create it simple. And then I expect the array keys of my user to array to be equals to this one. So this is something that I always do because I want to ensure that if I were to use my user array data anywhere, I know that the payload will never change. You know what I mean? So this test, which I always do in every single model, test the two-array method, will ensure that if I were to ever, you know, leak something on a heathen or whatever, that thing will always appear here on this given test. So let's run this to see how it goes. And it's failing because... because I need to do something, which is tell past PHP that I do need the database, and I need it on the feature folder, but also on the unit folder. Let's run our test suite again. And now I have a different problem, which is... the given keys are not in the correct format. Haha! You know why? Because I need to do this little secret. I always call afresh after calling the create. Otherwise, you don't actually get a model in the way it is in a database. So you want to do this all the time. So what we have here, we don't have the password. So this makes sense. The fact that we don't have the password within the toArray means that the password is being hidden every time you return the user. This makes a lot of sense. Just like the remember token, just like the created and just like the remember token and the password. So now if I run pass, it is passing as expected, and we should be close or either close to 100%, which we are. So we have 100% here. I can now test my entire Composer script and see how it goes. All right, let's run this, and hopefully we have a passing test suite. And we don't. We have something failing, which is Paint, which is the coding style tool. So remember, when you run your test suite, you don't want a Paint to fix your coding style. You want Paint to actually test your coding style. That's what you want, remember. So what we can do this is literally run Paint to fix the issues on styling, and now run the test suite again. All right, a few questions here. Philip Rock is asking if I don't use Herd. So I know Herd is amazing and everyone is using it. I'm just waiting for a new laptop to use Herd, you know. God Options is asking how many apps do you build per year? I don't know, man. A few, probably a dozen, not more than that. Nuremberg is asking why you don't use lazy refresh database straight. I don't use it because I know it raised some issues in the past, and I don't think I have ever used it since then. Probably I should. That's a good point. God Options is asking me if I work on the framework full time. Scared of losing reality? Just to be clear, so when I joined Laravel, I joined with product development, so that was literally working on Vapor and serverless. Then I joined with open source for like 1-2 years, and now I'm back to full product development within Laravel. So, you know, Laravel gives a lot of opportunities to work with open source, but at the moment I'm actually focused on product, so, you know. Kibal is asking, why not let Paint fix the style when I'm going to run it to do it so next? So the thing is that typically in the future, so you see this command called Composer test, which is the one that errored because of styling. I want to run this command on my CI. And on my CI, fixing the coding style is already too late. You know what I mean? So I want to ensure that I, have a Composer test that just runs static stuff. It doesn't actually change things. All right, let's keep going. So we have now, in terms of tooling, we have pretty cool tooling. We have PHP Stand, we have Paint, all cool stuff. So I feel, I feel we can start working a little bit on actual code. And the first thing I want to do, let's take a look on this folder. So I have here the console, I have here the web, which answers, to typically the list of to-dos. So what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to start by my app service provider. You know what? Because there is a couple of things that I always do on my app service provider, and I want you guys to see this. So I'm gonna go to my pyre.link project here on the left. You can't see it, but I'm gonna just copy paste some stuff I always do. Dude, this one is massive, like literally massive. The best thing in the planet, okay, is this predict pre-bit destructive commands in production. Okay, this is the best thing in the planet when you're working with Laravel, which is, you just create this method called configure commands, and I call this, if I'm not mistaken, on my boot method. Let me just double check. Yeah, let's go. So I add this to my boot method, just configure commands. And what it does is basically, if you were to run, if you, by mistake, you were to run any command, any artisan command that would destroy production database, this thing will basically forbid that, So I always add this to my app service provider, configure commands. Yeah. Now I'm going to show you something really cool as well, which is my configure models. So I don't work with the models that come by default. I typically do these two things. I ensure that my models are strict, which is a pretty cool thing. So if you were to, for example, let's say, if you are trying to fetch a user, for example, so let's say user equals to user find one, for example, and then you try to fetch, for example, a property that doesn't exist, what will happen is that Laravel will throw an exception because the property doesn't exist. Yeah, this is something that I always do. Keep my models most strict as possible because I want to make sure that I don't access properties that don't exist anymore, Shika Kirby is asking, what's the difference between a private and a protected method? So typically protected is when you work with inheritance. So let's say you have, for example, a class person, and within this class person you have something called it, let's say something called it get full name, and for this you need kind of the, let's say the first name plus the last name. So something you can do is literally do something like this. You can do a class student that extends person, and then you can do something like this, protected, or basically abstract protected get first name, and also an abstract protected get last name. And then on the student you can actually return the first name and the last name. So on this sense it does make sense to use protected because you actually want to use inheritance, But on real Laravel apps, I never use inheritance. That's why I use private, because there is no sense of making it public, protected. So that's why. Yeah, Bazir is saying like, should be strict also protects from n+1 errors and silent discard fillable fields. Exactly. So only brings good stuff. That's why I just use it by default. Something I want to use as well is this on guard, because basically I want to be able to do I want to be able to just create my user model and not have to think about the guarded stuff, because I just want to work fast. So should be strict and unguarded. That's something I always use. Oh, I also use this one literally all the time. Configure URL. I make sure that my app can only be used on HTTPS. So that's something I always do. So let's put it here. So basically, if someone would try to access my application in HTTP, in an unsecure way, Laravel will never reply to that because I'm always forcing HTTPS, which is pretty cool. And the final one, because hopefully we are going to use Inertia 2 in React on this project, is I always configure Vite to use the prefetch strategy aggressive. So is one of my favorite features that Laravel released a couple of weeks ago, and I'm always using. So basically each time I do a new release, all the Vite assets come at once. So it's in a very performant way. I'm very happy about that. Josh Mathers is saying, in popular opinion, forced HTTPS should be the default in 2025. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know why it's a default. Or maybe I do. It's not the default because locally you might actually be serving your application on HTTP. Big brains, huh? Potentially we could do something like, if it's not in production, or if it's in production, force HTTPS, but yeah. Please describe about providers. Oh, dude. Yeah, service providers is an internal concept in Laravel. Basically, it's kind of, if you are serving a request Actually better. When you are configuring your app, you want this special place where you can, set up some definitions, some configurations. So that's exactly how we are doing here. We are setting some stuff we usually like in our applications, like preventing destructive actions, or that my model should be strict. It's just basically a place where you can configure how you like your Laravel applications, And also it's a place where you can configure some packages as well, so. Josh Matter is saying, yeah, but how many people are not using Herd or Valet? Most devs who aren't are already doing HTTPS in a different way, such as Candy with HTTPS anyway. Well, maybe. You know what? Do a pull request, present your reasons, and maybe, maybe the team will merge that pull request. We never know. Zayn534102 is asking, is it possible that we can get this anywhere on the public repo? You know what? It's already available. You want me to send to you? I'm going to send to you. All right, I'm going to do this. As usual, I'm going to run my test suite first. So I'm going to run Pint, Composer test. Cool, right? Just run Composer test. I don't have to run the commands individually. Just run Composer test and running the entire thing already. I don't have to worry about that. So my test suite is passing. I can just do git commit eth, and then what I'm going to do here is configure some defaults. All right, dudes, this is pushing, meaning that I can actually give you access to this project. All right, dudes, here we go. Don't forget, please follow me on Twitch. For God's sake. So basically, to unlock some Twitch features, I do need your follow. So if you're watching me on Twitch, click the follow button so I can enable all these features, will allow me to do even better live streams. And if you're watching from YouTube, give that follow as well, because I will publish a lot of content in the future. All right, dudes, here we go. I just published on the chat where the app is. It's currently on my own GitHub. It's called Streams To Do app, and you are welcome to just export the code and, copy paste everything you want. It's up to you. Thanks for the followings, dudes. I really appreciate it. All right, what do we have now? So we have our app service configured. We have configured our tooling. It's actually time to do the real app. What do you guys think? Because so far, we are playing with tooling, we are configuring our app, but we actually need to get some work done. So let's do some TDD here. Any of you is fan of TDD? I'm a kind of a big fan. So let's do that. So I'm going to create this folder within feature, call it HTTP. Within my HTTP, I'm going to create a new folder, call it to do. Actually, I'm going to call it to do. And the first test I'm going to have is it's a store test, okay? Which is actually the process of storing this to do on a database, okay? So I'm going to open a PHP tag on top. And I'm going to run Pint, which should give me this pretty cool declare strict types on top. There we go. And then it allows you to create a to-do. Actually, it may create a to-do. Okay, so this will be a function. And the first thing we need to do is create a user, because the to-do is associated with a user. So let's just do that. The music is on point, don't you guys think? Oh my god, I just love it. Just good vibes, really. All right, so user, and then acting as that user from to-do's index. I'm going to post to to-do's store, and the title, do our to-dos have a title? What do you guys think? Probably a to-do description only, so for now, okay? The description will be my first to-do. And what do I expect to happen? I expect to First of all, I expect to grab the response, and then I expect the response redirect to route in to-dos index and assert session as no errors. And finally, I also expect I'm gonna grab all to-dos by doing model to-do all, and I expect to have only one to-do, and I expect the first to-do description to be my first to-do. I also expect that the first to-do user ID to be the user ID, okay? It sounds to me like a very complete test. What do you guys think? What do you guys think on the chat? So what am I doing is creating a user, acting at that user from the list of to-dos. I'm gonna start a to-do with the description, my first to-do. After that, I expect a redirect to the to-dos index with no session with errors. Finally, I'm gonna fetch all to-dos and I expect only have one to-do. That to-do needs to be assigned to the user ID 1. And yeah, pretty much that's it. What do you guys think? Lars Shu is saying very much yes. Yeah, I also agree this test stands complete for now, especially because it is missing so many stuff. Like I'm literally just playing with routes that don't exist yet. I'm literally, using a model that we don't have yet. So this will give me a very, a very TDD scenario approach, I feel like. So if I run Paint, it should be working. But if I run past PHP, this test will be failing hardcore, which it is. First thing it's saying is that to-dos index does not exist. So that's the first thing we need to work on. Giacomo is saying you could add another to-do to another user and test that the user had just one to-do. Indeed. So at the moment, I want to start with a very simple test. And once we actually have this one figured out, we can work in more tests, which will lead to more code. But let's keep it simple for now. Fabio007 is asking if I use GitHub Copilot. Yes, I do. I use GitHub Copilot to, as you can see, it's like little generating most of my code, which is pretty cool. Nuremberg is saying why you don't declare the response and not chain all afterwards. Well, typically, when I work with testing, I do the following. I prepare, I act, and then I do my assertion stuff. You know what I mean? So I feel like saving the response in this moment right here it's the correct thing to do. Because here I have prepared everything, but here I'm actually acting, I'm actually, from this thing, I'm posting stuff, you know what I mean? And then I have the response where I can perform some assertions. So always keep this in mind, dudes. Always try to separate your task by 3 things. Prepare your scenario, act, and finally assert. If you always do this, your test will be very, very, very clear. You guys are being awesome on the chat, by the way. Thanks so much for the feedback. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna leave this prepare, act, and assert for some of you who like to see this, okay? Okay, so we need to create the route. So let's actually go to my web PHP. Let's start working on this. So first thing I wanna do is make a controller. So let's type PHP artisan make controller to-do controller. I'm going to run Paint so I can have the file already on my style. I do have this to-do controller. I can remove this git keep. To-do controller will have to have an index which receives the request and returns an array. I'm going to keep it insanely simple for now, okay? Insanely simple. Okay, we need to fetch the to-dos. Come on, GitHub Copilot. Thank you so much. I'm gonna actually just return them on the array format, I feel like. Just thinking if I should... Does it even work? I don't even know. Okay, I need to remind myself that some of you actually never saw Laravel in your life, and I really apologize about that. But anyways, what am I doing is literally creating a method, call it index, which fetches the user to-dos. So this will return me the current logged in user, and starting on this array, on this variable, call it to-dos, and then I'm returning the to-dos back to the user. Okay, kind of simple stuff. But on my test, I'm basically accessing that route using this route to-dos.index. Therefore, I need to go into my web file and actually declare this route. So what I'm going to do is the following. Each time you get the main page, should I want the main page? Maybe I want, I don't know. I'm going to type it to-do for now. So each time you type to-dos, I'm going to return back the to-do controller and the index method. And I'm going to name this to-dos index. I need auth on this stuff, right? So I'm going to write the one quick test for this. Actually, I won't. I will do it later in the future. All right, so get to-dos will be answered by to-do controller on the method index, and that will be named to-dos index. How is my test? Let's see. I'm gonna use the -- bail. So -- bail will basically fail on the first, on the first failing test, which is pretty cool. We have this example test, which is the one failing. I want to remove it. Run my test suite once again, and I can see that now we have a different error. So the first time we had an error on this to-dos index route, which now we do have, is right here. But now we have a different problem, which is the to-do store is not defined. So we are going to work on that. Nürnberg is asking if the controller should be a single invocable one. You know what? I will have more stuff on that controller. So for now, it doesn't make sense to be invocable, because the to-do store will be literally over there. So let's start working on that. I'm gonna start a new to-do. That'll be called public function store, which will receive the request and then return back a response. And something I want to do already is start working on actions. So I'm gonna do that. So this will answer back response 200, by the way. So here I want the action to actually do the thing. I will leave the form request as well. I will leave migrations to actually have something here. I will have a model as well. So I need all of this actually. Okay, let's start working on this. So first things first, let's start with the very first request. I'm going to create a new form request. This will be called make request create to do. I'm going to run pind. And this create to do will authorize if... Can I do this? I'm gonna make it false for now. All right, so the only thing we have, if I don't forget, is that we have a description. Now I'm going to tell you something that I always do. Please hear this out, because this is top level recommendation. When you are validating content, always ensure boundaries. Okay, so if you are receiving a string, be explicit about the size of the string. So what you do expect is a minimum of 3 characters and a maximum of 200. Actually, you know what? We don't need 200. I'm gonna just put 100. So this is something that you always should do, and it kind of prevents a lot of problems. So in the future, we don't have to worry about what happens to our UI if the content is too small. We don't have to worry about the UI if the content is too big. We literally have this limitation already on the form request. So I will invite you to always do this. Okay? So let's import here some classes to clean up the code. All right, what do we have here? Create to do. So this will be create to do request, not just create to do. And now I can use this form request directly over here. So when you work with Laravel form requests, if you actually have the form request typed int right here, the request will never hit this if the request is not valid. You know what I mean? So we're kind of chilling at the moment, you know, because I know I need a description, so we are actually chilling. Okay, so what we need? So we need the validated stuff. So let's fetch that from the request. And once we have this, once we have the validated stuff, what we can do is literally create the to-do. And for that, we are going to use actions. So I'm going to create an action for this. An action is my favorite pattern in Laravel. It's something I use all the time. Let me just check the chat here. It's been a while that I don't check the chat here. Juicamo is saying, is 200 or 201? Is 201. At the end, it won't really matter because I'm going to use inertia for this. So, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's 201. Created resource, indeed. Zian is saying, response JSON. You know what? You know what? I was thinking about that. I'm going to just do this. There we go. Just response JSON and that's it. Yeah, good idea. Actually, again, it doesn't really matter. We are going to use inertia for this anyway, so it's kind of chilling. Yeah, so let's talk about actions, okay? Let's talk about actions. So, okay, this is my favorite thing ever, so I need to be prepared to demo this thing, huh? So, actions is my favorite thing ever because it basically allows you to abstract a particular logic in your code that gets fully agnostic from HTTP or from the console. You know what I mean? So an action could be something like create to do. Okay, this is an action. It will be a class, but the goal of this is you can call create to do anywhere. It can be on the console, it can be on the HTTP layer, it can be on the jobs layer. It doesn't really matter because it's fully agnostic. Okay? And the way it works, or the way I usually do this, is the following. I go to my app folder, so it's agnostic from the HTTP, so I can literally create this folder, call it actions, and I'm going to create an action with a name, create to do, okay? The action name always starts with a verb, which can be create, update, or delete, and then is a resource. On this particular case, we are literally creating the to-do, so let's just call this create to do. Our action will be simple, so starting with a PHP tag, namespace on top, app actions, you know, and then we have a class with a name, create action. Typically, the name of the action method will be handled. That's the name I do, okay? And typically returns, on this particular case, will return the to-do itself, okay? We still have to work on that. Okay, let's run Pint on this to clear out our coding style, and it's passing as expected. And this will actually execute the action. I like this pretty little comments, which gives my code some space to breathe. I don't know what you guys feel about that. All right, so now we do have an action. So we actually need to work on creating this thing. So the first thing we accept on this action is the user creating the action. So this will be the actual user. And then typically what I do is either describe here what I actually need for the to do. Typically I encapsulate this within a simple attributes array, so I can be a little bit flexible in the future. And this will call my, my to-do create with the user ID, the description, and just seal it. Now, I want to tell you something about actions that I always do. Typically, actions on real applications, they won't be this simple, okay? It's not about just creating a model and that's it. Especially in stuff like Laravel Cloud or even in your own projects, logic can be complicated. So typically what I do is that I use this DB transaction, and then I perform all my DB operations inside, DB stuff, or potentially other stuff. So I do everything here. So if on the task, let's say task 3, this stuff fails, this will lead to kind of a rollback in all my database operations. You know what I mean? So this is typically what I do. I call DB transaction, I do a bunch of stuff inside, and if this thing fails on the last one, I'm sure that the DB integrity will still be okay. Finally, there is one little thing I do, which is once my operation is fully complete, I typically also broadcast something like to do created to others. This to others is pure gold. Okay, so typically if you would do something like just broadcast, just like this, what happens is that everyone will receive the event, including yourself. So if you are dealing with a UI, which, you just created the to-do, you don't need to be notified again that the to-do just got created. It's just like too much, So what you can do is just put this, notify the other guys, and then they will hit, that reload on their side. This is like, mwah, pure gold on Laravel. What do you guys think? The truth is asking, what is the difference between an action and versus a job? So an action is literally the place where, you encapsulate everything within the DB transaction, you do all your stuff, and then you notify the UI about that. However, a queue job is something you need to do, on the background, typically a heavy task, like, notify people via email or potentially wait for something to be completed and then notify the UI. So it's more for stuff like that. So typically, for example, if creating a to-do would be something really complex that would take time, what I do is that I create a to-do with this status, for example, pending, okay? And then I'm going to dispatch something like a queue job, like process pending to do, dispatch, so it can complete on the background. You know what I mean? So that's what typically I do. All right, for now, I'm going to leave the DB transaction, so you can guys literally check this at home, okay? All right, to do, and then I'm going to also leave this broadcast, so you can guys check it out as well. But this is typically what I do. This should return the to-do from here, and finally we return the to-do, which will be a user model. We need to work on this model, guys. What do you guys think? Let's do this now. Yo, by the way, we have 140 viewers. Are you guys serious right now? 140 viewers. Thank you so much for being here on this side. I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. Do not forget, if you're watching me on Twitch, hit that following button, because I do need a couple of followers to actually unlock some of the Twitch features. If you're watching this on YouTube, also follow me there, because I'm publishing daily content around PHP and Laravel. So hopefully, you guys will like my content in the future. All right, let's create this to-do model. First thing I need is a migration, actually. So I'm going to type PHP artisan migrate, make migration, create to-do table. Bam, 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 bam. All right, we got it. Now, what is the first thing a Laravel developer does when he creates a migration? I'm gonna let you guys guess. What is the first thing a Laravel developer does when he creates a migration? I'm gonna let you guess. And yeah, that's right. The first thing we do, delete the down method. That's the first thing we do. We don't work with the down method on Laravel migrations. If you need to roll back something, write a new migration and then rerun a new migration, okay? That's what we do. We don't deal with the down method. So again, our to-do, our migration needs to create a to-do table. So let's do that. Schema, create to-dos. This will be the table to-dos. I'm gonna use this little blueprint thing. This will have an ID, indeed. I will need also, should I use an inside integer? I don't even know. I'm gonna use, just to keep it simple for now, probably an integer user ID, which is, dude, I literally forgot the syntax. What the hell? Unsign. What is the syntax of this? I literally forgot it. It's constraint or whatever, right? I don't even know. Let me check. You know, Laravel guys also forget things, you know what I mean? So it's not only you, it's not only me, everyone literally forgets things. Thank you. Thank you. Someone just wrote in the chat, table 4-inch ID for users. Let's go. What is he complaining about? Huh, do I need to do this? I don't even know. Oh my god, I'm literally forgetting all the syntax. Is this? I know, I shouldn't do that. I know that I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't provide the class name. I know that. All right, guys, I need a minute here. Give me a second. Just literally opening Laravel Cloud as we speak to see this stuff. Isn't this hilarious? Oh my god. Oh my god, I literally forgot this stuff. Dun, dun. Interesting. Ba, 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 ba. Bum, 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 ba, na, na, na. Here we go. Let's go. We're back on the game, guys. We're back on the game. All right, so the table will have a 4-inch ID, user ID, constraint, also a description, and also some timestamps. Gabriel Costa is asking, what playlist is this? This is literally EPOP, the default playlist that comes with Streamlabs, which is pretty cool. Luis Costa is asking, is Laravel Cloud built with Inertia? Yes, it is built on Inertia 2. In fact, Inertia 2 was built out of a lot of feedback from Cloud. So Joe was literally building Inertia 2 while we were building Laravel Cloud. And because of that, we literally, were able to provide him a lot of feedback about stuff we wanted for Laravel Cloud. So yeah, Inertia 2 and also React. Okay, so user ID, we have a description, right? And we have timestamps. So I feel it's safe to run this migration. What do you guys think? Let's type it. Okay, we have this migration run. So now we can work in our model. So let's type PHP Auto migrate, make model, which the name is to do. Let's run Pint. There we go. So what do we need here? What do we need here, if anything? Well, we need our relations, right? We are going to test those relations first. So I'm going to go to my user test, and I'm gonna type it may have to-dos. So typically I do this stuff to really scaffold my project and actually have a way of testing it. So you know what I mean? So I'm under user test, so I can type to-do factory count 3 create. So this will give me 3 to-dos, and I expect the user to-dos to have a count of 3. This is perfect. Now, magic tip. If you want to run only one test with past PHP, you can do this. Magic stuff, dude. You just type only and that's it. How crazy that is, huh? Pretty cool stuff, right? All right, let's create the to-do, the user here. Oh my god. Let's go. Factory create 3, blah, blah, blah. No. Okay. We prepared. We create a to-do. We need to import this. And finally expect the to-do count to be 3 and only that. So if I run this should actually fail because we need to set up some stuff here. So we don't have a factory because my user model is missing a factory. So here I want to use the factory from Laravel. Oh, we need to create the factory for the to-do. Let's do it. We don't need this. We need this. I need my user. Yes, sir. Okay, what do you guys think? We are doing good? We are doing good? I feel we are doing good, but I don't know. Mikael Sos is asking if this will stay saved on the channel. So the answer is no. At the moment, the vlogs, or basically everything, like the entire video, won't be on the channel. Will be basically on some highlights on YouTube, basically. Okay, I will do some really nice clips of this stream because I have no idea if the entire content is good. So you know what I mean. Gabriel Costa. It could actually be a good idea to have Taylor on this live, but he is a very busy guy, you know, so I will have to speak with him. Zayn is asking why you don't use user factory as create. Let me check. You mean here? Yeah, why not? I guess I could, right? Yeah, let's not do it for now. Okay, so it's saying that is invalid expectation value type because this is not even a relation yet. So let's go to our user model. Let's literally do our public function to do, which returns the user to do's and returns the has many here. And this returns a has many relation with our model type. It should be passing, by the way, already. Yep, yes sir. User may have to-dos, but you know what? Not only the user have to-dos, but also our to-do have a user. So we need to go to this test and type some to-do test. And the first thing I want to do is test the to array on my to-do model. So if I do a to array, I expect to have this stuff. And it may have, or better, it belongs to a user. So if I create a to-do, I expect the to-do user not to be null. I'm gonna do it a little bit better, to be instance of user. Let's go. And it's passing because I forgot to remove the only. Thanks for the following and welcome to the stream. All right, so we have our to-do store missing, which is kind of literally the test we wrote early today. but we have better. We have that asserting that null is instance of user. So this given test right here, we are seeing right now, which is this one we just wrote, is literally failing because we don't have the relation yet defined. So we can go to our user model and literally say that we need a user relation. No GitHub Copilot, I actually need a description or a good description for this. Can you please provide me that GitHub Copilot? No, not that. The user that owns the to-do. Yeah, that works. What he's complaining about. Need to import this. Yeah. Done. Run our test suite. All right, we have 2 tests failing. The one about to-do store, but also this one, which is failing because we are missing the user ID right here. One test failing, which is the one that says that to-do store is not defined. We can actually already fix this, I feel like, if I do this. Yes, sir. Bam, 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 fast, let's go. And now we have another problem, which is the status response was 403. Interesting. I feel this was because our form request is returning false. Perhaps. Let's see. Yes, sir, we are not authorizing the user to do this. And here I'm going to literally remove this because eventually I'm going to just use the auth middleware. Why are you complaining now? Okay, the redirect is working bad. I guess I can fix this. What should I do? What am I doing? I can go here. Okay, so if I do this, I should redirect literally back. Okay. What do we have now? Yep, it's not a response, it's indeed a redirect response. Because, I mean, when you create a to-do, which is the goal of this, create a to-do, you kind of want to redirect the user back to the list of to-dos. So what am I doing here is creating a redirect back to literally the place where the store was initiated from. You know what I mean? How about now? Ooh, interesting. So we are literally past this already, but now it says that our to-do does not exist, so we can literally import it. Let's import it, run past. Now it's complaining that the list of to-dos is actually 0, okay? So check it out. Our test, which we wrote initially on this stream, is creating a user, that's working good, is acting at that user, that's working good as well, is acting from the to-dos list, which is also working well, is posting something for the to-do store to create, the actual to-do. And I did test that I got redirected back to the list of to-dos, so that's also working good. I got no errors in the session, which is perfect. And I was able to fetch all the to-dos. But the problem now is that I actually have 0 to-dos created. So my goal is actually work on the action we were, working on and actually persist this to-do on a database. Jorish Vandendel 17 is asking if I use DDD. I don't use DDD. At least, I try to use a folder structure that I like a lot, so I won't use DDD for this. Gabriel Kost is asking if you should create tests before or after the things are done. So it really depends, man. Sometimes I do it after, sometimes I do it before. I would say like 60-70% of the times I do it before. 30% I do it after, I feel like, sometimes, So great question here. Great question I just saw here on the chat. Arsa Gamal is asking how you manage dependencies between actions, meaning passing params. What happens if you need an action to call another action? So a priority for me is that actions can call other actions. Okay, I really want to ensure that. So it's kind of, ridiculous talking about to-do apps in actions, but let's assume, for example, that the created to-do is a little bit more than actually just creating this particular to-do. Imagine that you need to perform another action like creating, a deadline or whatever. So the way I work on this is that I create a constructor, and on this constructor, what I do is I pass another actions I need. For example, create a soup to-do, or create a deadline, or create a to-do attachment, or whatever. Create a to-do attachment is actually a good one, because when you are initializing a to-do, you might want to actually put the attachment at that time, or put the attachment later on. So you might want to isolate that as an action. So the way I do this is I inject the action just like this, and then within this transaction, keep this in mind. That's why we are using transactions, is because if you are creating the to-do here, potentially, just like this, and then you are actually creating the attachment, you know what I mean? With the given to-do in the attributes, if this thing fails, if this creating attachment fails because, I don't know, the world is about to end, you want to roll back everything back. So that's why you have this within a transaction, to really keep the database on the perfect state. And I know there is stuff that solves these problems like event sourcing or whatever. I'm just using this at the moment, and it just really works good for me. So yeah, let's move forward. So I want to actually create a to-do, and for that I'm going to use my action. Okay, so yeah, DB transaction will encapsulate the logic. To-do will actually create the to-do on a database with a given user ID. And finally, I broadcast this to the UI, currently commented, but finally I return it back. This should actually be done, the create to-do thing. So now I'm going to go to my controller, and I'm going to inject this given to-do, create to-do. So typically what I do is, my metazone controllers have the request and the action. You know what I mean? They have they start with the request, they have the action, and they finalize with the response. And if you read this, actually reads pretty cool. So create to-do request, then create a to-do, and finally redirect back to the user, almost, okay? So we have done pretty much all of this, I feel. So what I can do now is, actually this needs to be called action, not create to do. So action, handle the request user, the validated data, which should typically just be the description, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. You guys just saw a small DD sneaking in, huh? Why I'm using DD, not Xdebug? Because it's better, man. I just love XDD, DD is just the best tool in the planet to debug, so I have to use it. All right. Let's go! Let's go! We have our test week passing with 6 tests and 11 assertions running in less than a second. How cool is that? All right, guys, don't forget, follow me on Twitch. Please, I do need to hit, a huge amount of followers there so I can unlock some features. Don't forget that, please. Thank you so much. Can you guys see? Let's just take a moment to look at this code and how beautiful this thing is. How beautiful this thing is. I find this amazing, man. All right, because I still want to have our special guest, but before that, I actually want to do something. I want to be able to complete to-dos. So let's do that real fast, okay? So I'm gonna go to my store test, and I'm gonna do something real quick. I'm gonna do to-dos are, let's say, are pending by default. Is it pending by default? Would be draft? What is the status when a to-do is not completed? Uncompleted? I don't even know. Tell me on the chat if you can come up with something better. So to-dos are uncompleted by default. Let's see. I create a user. I acted that user, storing that thing on a database. Yes, 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 yes. And finally, what I do is I expect the to-do status to be to-do status incomplete. Incomplete. Yeah, that's what I'm using. Incomplete. Uncompleted? Doesn't even exist, this word? Oh my god, I apologize about that. All right, so to-do status incompleted. Let's just do this, you know, so we can have our special guest right here. Okay. So if I run this test, this should be failing because we don't have a status to begin with. Oh my god, do you guys see? Do you guys see? This is like perfect magic. Do you guys see this test? It says the attribute status either does not exist or was not retrieved. Do you know why this is happening? Do you know why? Because we are using this thing. Should be strict. If I comment this, check this out. Now suddenly it's just, you know, it's just passing out of nowhere. Doesn't make any sense. So you should always, you know, use this should be strict, which is a pretty cool thing. Okay, let's go back. Status. Okay. Status. What I do. I go to the migration and I start by there. Yeah, let's do it. So database, migrations, create to do migration. Let's just go here, and typically I should do another migration, but you know what? This is like locally, it's my thing, so I'm gonna just do it here. So table, string with the name, status, and there is no default at all. I typically, you know what? I typically don't like to set defaults like on migrations, you know? I know that sometimes we have to do it, you know, but ideally I would like to avoid it at all completely. So the status will be a string. This should be still failing because it's failing like everywhere. Let's see why. Oh, you know why? Because in our create to do, we are creating the to do without any status whatsoever. That's why you shouldn't use a default in your migrations, because you want to be explicit about the stuff you are putting on a database, okay? So, to-do status. I want to create a new folder with the name enums. Guys, we are going to have a special guest in like 5-10 minutes, so I need to finish this ASAP. Enums, I'm going to create this to-do status. And this will be... Have you guys seen enums already? Enums are the best thing on the entire world in PHP. Dude, did you know that you can have methods on enums? It's true, huh? So, namespace, app enums. Spatie? No. I'm using like default enums. Okay. What do we have? So, to-do status is a string, indeed. The case is pending. Pending is better than incompleted, don't you think? Pending incompleted looks way better, so let's use that. Let's actually run Pint real quick. It's working. Okay. So, what I do? I need to go to my create. I need to go to my test, actually, and ensure I'm using to-dos are pending by default. So if I do this, I expect this to be pending. And now I should go to create to-do. And on the status, which I'm going to put above description, I do to-do status open? No, thank you. Pending. Okay, great. We done this. It's a test even passing now? I don't think it is, because I still need to have the casting. Yeah, it's failing all over the place because the to-do status does not exist. Why is that? Because I need to import it. Yeah, let's go. Undefined constant pending. It's not a constant. What are you even saying? Oh yeah. You're right, dude. You're right. Apologize. Pending is identical to object class. Yeah. So do not forget, each time you're working with enums, okay, we're working with enums and you have enums on the database, you need to add the casting for that. So you need to go to the to-do model and have a method with the name casts, okay? The cast returns an array, and that array is all the casting we need, which I have no idea now. I think is enum or something. Do you guys know? Should I just put the enum right here? I don't even know. Let's try this for now. I don't think this will work. Or maybe it will. Okay, is working, but now my factory is outdated. So let's just fix that real quick. So to do factory, the status is to do status pending by default. Yes. Oh, thank you. You guys saying just the class. Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't, sometimes, especially live coding like this, it is fun, but you just have a blank sometimes, just forget everything, So yeah, it's saying, oh my God, this is like pure gold. Pure gold. So check this out. You remember the toArray method? It's complaining that now we have something new, which is the status. Status is a new thing being leaked out of the toArray method. So this is something that I can make a decision. Do I make this hidden on the hidden array of my model, or I just also make it public? Well, it's the status of a task. It will be public to my inertia anyway, so I can just add it back. It's after the description, is being placed after the description probably a problem with my migration? Yes, sir. And we have a passing test suite. How cool is that? All right, let's run PHP stan. Probably complaining about bazillion of things. 8 errors, not that bad. Let's fix it. Let's fix this real quick. So in my user model, I do have this. Oh yeah. Josh Mathers is saying, why you don't use resources over the model to array? You know what? I do use resources for regular APIs when I'm working with inertia. Something you guys need to understand is this controller right here eventually will return something like return inertia render whatever. You know what I mean? And then here I will be able to actually define what I want. So the toArray, a great question by the way, but toArray will act right here, because it will be used as a data basically for this inertia response, okay? You know what, here I'm gonna just literally just put to-dos for now. There you go. Okay, let's fix the PHP stan, have our test suite passing push, and then have our guest right here. It's basically complaining about very small things, but this is cool because at long term it will pay off, I can promise you that. Okay, it's complaining that to do user generic trait as factory. Yep, I need to do something, which is this little thing. Oh my God, music is on point, music is on point. 150 viewers. You guys are just awesome. If you just joined it, don't forget to follow me on Twitch. I do need a certain amount of followers on Twitch to actually unlock some features to make this stream even better. If you join me on YouTube, just follow me there as well, because I'm publishing clips of these streams every single day. And yeah, you'll be able to watch the best moments later if you want to. And of course, if you're enjoying this content. If you don't enjoy this content, you are welcome to stay and unfollow. It's all right. All right, line 30. What he's complaining about now? Oh yeah. You know what? Fixing PHP stan errors is something that you should just do. Takes no time or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just takes a little bit of time, and it's fun. You know what I mean? Like, you just get it right, do it once, and that's it. Yeah. Yeah, technically it's saying that there is no guarantee that this given session will be that the user actually gets returned by, because basically we don't have any session yet, you know. So I'm going to do this to prevent that this moves forward if we are not logged in. And now should just work. I'm going to actually do this. Same here. Almost 4 errors left. 3 errors left. Two errors left. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. What? You don't know what a to-do is? What the heck? Okay. One error. Create to-do handle as a name with attributes with no value type specified on a triple array. Yep. I'm gonna fix that real quick. So this validated stuff is an array with a description which is a string. This should just do it. Is it before? Maybe it is. What the heck? What's happening? Okay, you guys can give me a second here. Yeah, this should just work. What's happening? Let me see. Thanks for the following, Nuno. Oh, you have the same name as me. How cool is that? Okay, so handle. Oh, of course. So what he's saying is that, okay, you are receiving an array of attributes on this action, but you are not telling me what is the shape of that array. So something you can do when working with PHP Stan and Laravel is that you can just come here and say, well, my array that you're working on is an array which contains a description inside, you know what I mean? That's why there is no actual difference between value objects in these things, because this thing actually tells you the shape of the data being exchanged. So if I were to, for example, say that there is no description or whatever, PHP Stan will fail. You know what I mean? But if I were to fix this and actually be explicit about the data I'm exchanging, now I have no problems. You see how cool that is? So that's basically the power of PHP Stan. All right, I'm going to run my entire test suite, which hopefully is passing as expected. And then I'm going to ask my special guest to join our stream today. Oh, okay. We have literally our code coverage still not passing as expected. Let's check that real quick. So to-do controller is saying that the index method is not being tested at all. So that's a cool thing. When you're working with past, you can use this dash coverage. Will tell you, the test coverage, how many, code you are actually testing. And it's telling me at the moment that the to-do controller is not being tested between the lines 22 and 25. So what I can do real quick to address this issue is create a new test file with the name index test. And I'm going to do something like this. It lists the user to-dos. And yeah, creating a user, and then probably, creating some to-dos for that user as well. And finally, I'm going to get the list of to-dos, assert the status is 200 indeed, and assert that I have, all the to-dos on the response. This should actually be good. need to act as that user. Almost. Yeah, the JSON is, again, this stuff doesn't really matter because we are going to literally just rewrite everything with inertia for the future. But for the sake of it, let's have a passing test, which it is. So hopefully now if I run -- coverage, we do have a passing test suite with 100% code coverage. How cool this is. All right, composer test and please, 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 go, 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 go. A passing test suite, let's go. Haken is saying, I don't think 100% code test coverage is either necessary or realistic. You know what, dude? Regarding test coverage, I have seen a lot, and I can tell you that having a high percentage of test coverage is better than having 0. You know what I mean? So I feel like on my own apps, I like to have close to 100% test coverage and stay close to that and keep the value, always high. But, some people say that test coverage doesn't really matter. For me, it matters. It's a metric, it's a metric. And especially with talented people, you can ensure that the tests people are writing are actually good tests. So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. The most important is that you have actually a good value on test coverage. So you really want to ensure that you have, a value high, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you don't have, just a little bit of your code actually being tested, So, all right, folks, I'm gonna, ask my special guest to join the stream now. So, my special guest today is, if he's joining soon, is no else than Mateus Guimarães, okay? This guy right here. He's joining us because he actually made a tweet about the way he likes to organize his application. So I want to ask Mateus what he thinks about this. I know we have very little stuff at the moment, but maybe he can already give me, his opinion about what do we have. All right, let's wait for Mateus to join us here on the stream, but he should join us like very, very soon. Thank you all for the 140 viewers. That's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. And yeah, Mateus is coming, he is a very proponent guy around, modular applications on Laravel. So I'm super curious to see what he thinks about writing apps like this on this kind of structure. So let's wait him to join.
Hey.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, man. Thank you so much for coming, man. Such a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. That's great.
The chat today is absolutely crazy, though. Like, we have 140 viewers, only cool people here on the chat. And we decided to build a Laravel application. And I know that recently, like literally like 2 days ago or something like that, you made a viral tweet talking a little bit about the way you write applications. So I want to start by that. Can you see my screen? I think you can, right? If you join on Discord. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you, Mateus. First of all, you usually write applications like you have on the left or like you have on the right?
For the last few years, mostly like you see on the right. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So if you have, for example, something like an enum, you would mix that enum closely or on the same folder as you have your model, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, can I ask you, like, what is the reason behind that? Probably, like, if you can explain in the simple way, of course, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'll try. So I think one of the difficulty of explaining this topic is we have a lot of architectural patterns. You have hexagonal, you have clean architecture, you have the tactical patterns from domain-driven design. You have MVC, you have all of that. And I think the first thing people think when they see this is, they think this is DDD, right? And this is, I mean, it could be, but it isn't. But you could also have DD on the left structure, right? It's really no particular structure. Those are just typically called vertical slices. But the reason why I like those is because they are contextual. So I was following the live stream. I was watching until just now.
Oh my god! God! You probably thought, "What the fuck this guy's doing?"
Yeah, like for the sake of an exercise, just look at how many folders you have open just to work on a to-do, right? You have actions, you have enums, you have controllers, you have requests, you have models. If this was a real-life application, you would also probably have like a services folder. You would have a support folder. You would have a contracts folder. So, to work on a single feature, you have to look into 11 different places. And in real life, you don't work on like types. You don't work on an enum, or you don't work on a model. You work on a feature, right, or a context. Like, you don't go and you look into your project and you list all of the exceptions you have and start thinking, okay, which exception am I going to tackle today? You go, okay, maybe I have this task where I have to handle failed payments, right? So you're going to look at how payments are handled. You're going to look at where they're processed. And then you're going to look at the exceptions. You're going to find them throughout the code. So even if you have them grouped by type, I don't think it's really helpful, because you still, if you know what you're looking for, then it doesn't make a difference whether it's structured by type or by context, because you can just jump into the file. But if you don't know what you're looking for yet, then having context is, in my opinion and experience, a much more valuable experience. I just real quick, like one of the main things I see when I post about this, and I am a very opinionated guy,
That's okay. Like, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, just to make things clear, like when I say that I prefer something or that I find something simpler, I'm not saying that the other option is bad, right? I think the default MVC structure as a generic approach is great. It has to be generic. It has to work on every application. Whereas a contextual-based structure has to be custom. But one of the common concerns or disagreements I see is, this is not useful because I don't really use the file tree viewer. Like, I don't have that open. I don't have the sidebar open. I don't use that. But I think the reason we don't use that is because if you have your files grouped by type, then the sidebar is never going to be useful, because it doesn't give you any value, right? If you have 18 folders and you have 15, 20 files in each one of them, the sidebar is never going to be useful.
Right.
If you have contexts, then it's really useful, because you're working on payment processing, you can go into payment processing and you can see everything that's related to payment processing.
Right. So I assume,
so that's kind of my...
I think it makes sense, I think I would still prefer my way, because typically I'm just used to it. And I feel like a lot of people in Laravel are literally used to this thing. And, it's working very well for Laravel Cloud. I'm curious about something in your organization, though. So I assume that within, for example, if you have a folder called let's say, order, and another one called it processing, you are still able to use the order model within the processing folder, aren't you?
You are? You mean as if they're on the same level? Like the same level of
Not
importance?
really. So imagine that within the order folder, you actually need to access, for example, the payment status, let's say, the enum payment status.
Right.
Would you still be able to use it like normally?
I mean, would you access the payment enum status from the order context?
Yeah. Maybe I didn't have to. But I'm wondering if I really had to, for potentially change the order status, or actually a better idea. Like, for example, if you want to know what is the order status, and to know the order status, you also need to know the payment status. You know what I mean? And you would have to literally import the files from other foldering. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on what boundaries you have in place. So
Gotcha.
in real life, if you were to have a context that includes an order and a payment, then I mean, that's fairly okay, I guess. But I think in real life, what you would end up doing is the way that you can model it probably is you can model a payment status and you could also model an order status, right? Because they're not going to be necessarily the same. They're probably going to be often the same. But for example, an order can be pending, right? Maybe a payment can either be successful or failed. You don't have that middle ground. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But think about Amazon, right? When you check out on Amazon, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but when you check out your card on Amazon, your card doesn't get charged immediately. They create an order, and then your card gets charged afterwards. So I don't know how they coded it, but I could imagine that you could model it separately. You have your order status, which is one thing, and you have your payment status, which is another thing. Now, if a payment fails, you probably want to react to that and update the order status.
Yeah.
But that's still within the order boundary, right? You don't have to leak that somewhere else unless you wish to.
And how do you communicate? How do you communicate between boundaries, basically? Like, if something on the payment happens, which will lead to a repercussion on the order itself, how do you communicate these things? It's like via events, via actions, anything I can think of?
The way that I like to think about that is how careful with coupling am I on a given context?
Yeah.
For example,
coupling is the right word. Yeah.
If I'm Amazon and I'm on a payment processing context, then you probably want to be very careful with that, right? Because that's your core business. You sell stuff. You got to make sure payments work. So in that context specifically, I would probably be a little bit more careful. I would avoid having direct coupling to other components. I would leverage events, something like that. Now, if you have in other contexts, like, I don't know, updating your user information or something that's not very meaningful, then I think you can afford to be a little bit less careful with that and introduce some coupling. But in general, I mean, it really depends. But I guess that if you're careful about coupling, you're probably going to go with events and have those different modules react to events that are passed into the system. So, going back to the order into the payment example, if you receive a payment fail example, then you probably want to update the order status, right?
Yeah.
You probably want to cancel any shipments that you had to do or something like that.
Just to clarify to the audience, when you talk about events, you're talking something a little bit more specific, like event sourcing, or you're talking literally about Laravel events, for example?
I'm talking literally about Laravel events, like
Laravel events, yeah.
Just like a mental model for those in the audience. Imagine that you have a very simple e-commerce application, very generic. You have orders, you have payments, you have shipments. Let's say that I order something, I paid for it, it's paid. You initiate a shipment procedure. It's not shipped yet.
Yeah.
And then I go and say, hey, you know what? I want to cancel my order.
Yeah.
Then you can either have, let's say that you have a cancel order action like we're using in the live stream. You have an action, a command. You can either have that command communicate with all of the other boundaries and say, hey, refund the payment, cancel the shipment, send an email, do all of that. Or you can have that be self-contained, and you can say, cancel the order, and then dispatch an event saying that the order was canceled, or that the order was requested to be canceled. And then you can have the shipment module listen to that and go, oh, okay, an order was canceled. I should probably cancel the shipment for it.
Yeah.
Things like that.
So something I felt when I was working on Pinkery, and that's why I went with this actions approach so heavily afterwards, is when I'm working with events, it's super easy for me to lose track of what an event actually does. You know what I mean? Like you dispatch an event, and for me, it's really difficult to understand like what are the impacts of that event on the system. Because potentially a lot of different things are listening to that specific event and do actions on it. So for me, events didn't really work out on Pinkery, but probably because Pinkery was also, I wasn't experienced with events at all before working with events, So after that, I went with actions, like literally this folder structure I just showed to you. And I feel like I'm super comfortable. And for me, everything is clear about what's happening. If I, creating a to-do, which is a very simple example, I know that I can encapsulate all the logic within the DB transaction, call sub actions inside if I want to, and just having this insurance that at the end, if something goes off rails, everything will basically roll back in the way it was, So this is really working out for me. But at the same time, yeah, you have to introduce some coupling indeed to be able to do this kind of actions, you know what I mean? Because you are not dispatching events, you are actually calling actions within sub-actions. I know, for example, recently I've coded an action which that was calling literally, I think, 3 or 4 chains of sub-actions to delete stuff. So basically deleting, for example, an organization would delete the applications would delete the environments would delete, you know what I mean? And the cool thing about this is that things were basically being chained, and if the last thing being performed would fail, I would roll back through the transaction thing to the state it was before, and I could tell the user something unexpected happened, please reach support, you know what I mean? But yeah, to have this safety, I feel, especially using actions, you kind of need to couple everything together. But yeah, Mateus, I find very interesting that you dive into this kind of stuff, by the way. And, obviously you have developed, dozens of Laravel applications to the point that you now are thinking about this stuff and see what works for you. And that's pretty cool, and everyone in the chat should do that a little bit as well. Like, you probably have a lot of experience already developing Laravel apps. So you want to be, to be able to understand what your team really likes to do and what actually works for you, And obviously for Mateus, he's developing probably bigger applications than I do. And this is working very well for him. So
yeah, no way. That's not true.
So what was the feedback? Because you told me that the tweet went viral, but I didn't saw the answers on the tweet. Can you let me know, what was the general feedback of the community around your tweet?
It was sort of mixed. So some people really enjoyed the right approach. Some people enjoyed the left one. But something that, and by the way, I real quick, I do agree with you on actions versus events. That is a problem that is still faced with events. Yeah. If it helps in any way, like the way that I managed to sort of solve that is really just documentation and ensuring that your contexts are somewhat small, so you know what the blast radius is. But that makes sense. I agree with you. But
I'm wondering,
anyway, coming back to the tweet.
I'm wondering, we just saw Sean McCool here on the chat. It also, I know there is something called reverbs as well. I'm wondering if event sourcing kind of solves this problem that I had on events, which is it was doing so many different things everywhere. On top of that, they weren't within the transaction, so if something went off rails, I didn't know exactly what failed. Right. You know what I mean? And I didn't know the state of the thing because events could be basically reacting differently in a different order. It was so confusing. So I'm wondering if event sourcing, and probably, one day I need to do an app here. This is the same to-do app, but using, for example, event sourcing, and see if it solves some of our problems I had with events. And if it does, potentially in the future, try to explore a little bit the way you structure apps in your side material. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You should listen to. So Sean just did a podcast with Chris Morrell on event sourcing. Mm-hmm. That is pretty cool. You should listen to that one.
I will, man.
I'm not too experienced with it either. So.
Yeah. So you would say that the reaction from the community in your tweet was 50-50. You said, right?
Yeah, I think it was kind of 50-50. But something I noticed was that a lot of the replies were something like, "I don't think I would understand this approach," or "I don't think I would like it," and the I don't think part is curious to me because, you either try it and find out, or,
Yeah.
And like my thing with, it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something I like, but it's not a hill I'm willing to die on, or it's not like, if something disagree, that's fine.
Yeah.
But my thing with contextual or context-based applications that I find them simpler. Like, if you look at structures, in one of them, you can clearly understand what a context does, and the other doesn't. And you have to extrapolate that to the fact that in real life, for example, at work, we have hundreds of models. Mm-hmm. We have hundreds of controllers. We have hundreds of services. So that gets blown up quite a bit. You don't have to go very far. The Laravel core is componentized, right? If you want to contribute something to the queue system, you go into Laravel Framework Queue, right? If you want to contribute to Eloquent, you go into Database Eloquent. Mm-hmm. You don't have a subtree where everything's just spread out. You have
Gotcha.
things that chain together and that work together in the code base. And I think another reason that, like, this is hard to explain, but I feel that if you have a type, like an MVC structure where things are grouped by type, you start to limit yourself to these boxes. So you create a new class and you go, is that a model? No. Is that a value object? No. Is that a DTO? No. Where does it go? And more often than not, you either throw that into like a support folder, right? Or something very generic, or you don't create the class. So this tweet blew up just when I was doing something at work, and I created a class called metric. And this class called metric, the only way it makes sense is if it's within a context with a class next to it called donation stats, because that's a metric of a donation stat. If I were to, I don't even know where I would put it, to be honest. Like if I were to group it by type, it's not a DTO, it's not a VO either, so it would probably go some random place. But I feel that when I'm working in context, I have much less mental overhead about where to put things or what to call them or what box they fit. I just create the class and it's done. I don't worry about that.
I find it funny that you call that folder support, where on JavaScript people call that libs. Or elsewhere, people call that, there is always a name for that kind of folder that contains everything. We don't know what it is. So it's funny that you call it support. Dude, I find it interesting that you are exploring this kind of stuff. I also feel like, indeed, when you're working with applications that are, they are just so big, you just have to rethink a little bit the way you organize apps. Otherwise, you end up with, a form requests folder which has 150 different form requests, which is not scalable, of course, So, thank you, man, for coming in, for explaining that, and I cannot wait to be with you again, having a beer in New York.
Yeah, I mean, or randomly in New York, right?
Randomly in New York, especially that. Yeah, I was in New York, in Matthews as well, went there on that week, and I was looking for a buddy to have a drink, and he was literally 20 meters away from my hotel. Like, what the actual,
I was, so we were staying at a co-working place.
Yeah,
and it was
across the street. Oh my God! Because Manhattan is not that big, It's kind of small, let's say, but still, it's still big, You could be potentially 2-3 kilometers away, And he was literally across the street, like literally looking at my room, almost. That was hilarious. Oh my God! Thank you so much for coming, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. It was fun.
Catch you next time.
You later.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Oh my God, that was fun, right, guys? That was our special guest today, Mateus Guimarães. He is obviously working with stuff that we, as a users, developing, because most of us develop, small level applications. And we are lucky to have someone like him literally giving us a masterclass on modular level applications. So I know Mateus Guimarães is on Twitter, so do please go to his Twitter to check it out, his content. And you can probably learn one thing or two about the things he does, okay? All right, folks, today was a big stream. We did quite a few things here. I feel like overall we probably want to keep doing this application probably in the future stream. Can you guys still see my screen? For some reason I cannot see my screen though. What's happening here? Give me a second. Can you guys still see my screen? I cannot see my screen anymore. What the heck, though? All right. Well, anyways, I was just saying, thank you all for coming today. I think we did a great job. Just to recap a little bit, today we have created a to-do app, right? The goal of this to-do app was basically being able to create the to-dos and possibly, if we had time, to see those to-dos as well. We managed to actually create those to-dos. As we can see, we have a passing test that actually creates the to-do right there, and then acting as a regular user from the list of to-dos, we store that to-do, and we indeed check that we have that to-do on a database. So I feel that we managed to accomplish today's goal. So it was fun, man. I had a lot of fun. We managed to work with enumerations, we did controllers, we did form requests, we did models, we did relations, we did testing as well to see all the to-dos and to store to-dos. We tested at the unit level some things in our models as well. We configured Pint, PHP Stan, all these cool things and cool tools. We configured our Composer scripts, and now we have finally a passing test suite just by running Composer test. I think overall this was a very successful stream. We had about 150 concurrent viewers across YouTube and across Twitch. So before going, please do subscribe on Twitch and subscribe as well on YouTube. Not subscribe, but follow, because I do need to unlock some features on Twitch, and I can only do that if you actually follow me on Twitch. Do the same on YouTube, because I'm actually publishing content to YouTube every single day. Let me just put here a little bit the chat right here in the middle, if I can. I don't think I can. Anyways, you guys are saying, Mikael Souza is asking, do you recommend learning PHP first and then Laravel, or could someone learn Laravel and pick up PHP stuff along the way? So you basically want to ensure that you learn, the basics of PHP. Let's say variables, functions, classes, kind of the basics, but then I feel you can jump directly into Laravel. I think you will work very, very good there. I can thank you, man. Thank you for enjoying the stream. I had a lot of fun. Saya is saying, please upload all to YouTube. Skip the starting. This was very important. Well, thank you. I will consider, having the entire stream on YouTube. I cannot promise you, okay? I think I'm gonna just cut the highlights and put them there. Victor is asking when the VS Code extension is coming out. So yeah, I don't know if any of you know, but actually in Laravel we are working on having this VS Code extension, and it's currently being used already within the company, and I don't know when it's actually coming out, but it should be pretty soon. Nuno Silva is saying, thank you so much, Nuno, awesome stream. I also feel that. Guys, thank you so much for this moment. I have the best 2 hours of my week. This stream was purely fun. I have, a lot of fun. It was fun to have you here on the chat. It was fun to have as well Mateus Guimarães talking about his experience. And I feel I did show you a little bit the way I work and code apps. And if you guys enjoy it, yeah, just keep, appearing here on my streams, because I feel this will be a hell of an end of the year for me. All right? Thank you so much for coming today, and peace out.